here to listen to music, but the problem is I've got a piece of music running through my mind loud and clear at the moment because Liesel has a new favorite. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can I have a little more? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I love you. Bum, bum, bum. And so on it goes. And so, well, this morning it is the poll winner. And I'm kind of glad because the poll winners tend to be songs that, you know, I really enjoy. And it's going to have to be something to pull me out of this little rut I'm in. So let's get started. Well, actually, it's Blue Öyster Cult. This is the name of the band, Blue Öyster Cult. Don't Fear the Reaper. Sounds rather intense. Blue Öyster Cult is an American rock band formed on Long Island, New York. Okay, that explains their name. In the hamlet of Stony Brook in 1967. Their fusion of hard rock with psychedelia and a penchant for occult, fantastical, and tongue-in-cheek lyrics had a major influence on heavy metal music. Okay. Released as an edited single, Don't Fear the Reaper is Blue Öyster Cult's highest chart success. Well, this is going to be an interesting one. Let's listen. Okay. Okay, so as I'm listening to this, the first thought in my mind was, okay, they've got a catchy little riff, and I was working out the timing, the rhythm, and all of that, and then I realized how dependent it was on the bass, and that the bass itself also has its own little part of the riff to play. And from that point, I was captivated by this bass line, and I started thinking, oh, this reminds me of some of there have been a few songs along the way which I've used the term kind of hippopotamus style, you know, big, deep, bass-focused, fat, heavy. It gives this sort of hippopotamus vibe. And I started to think in that direction, but this is interesting because although it has that big, fat bass sound, rhythmically it's too clean for me to call it a hippopotamus bass. It doesn't. And so I was sitting there listening. Oh, how would I describe this bass to someone who's never heard it before? I can't use that term. And there were a few other images that flashed through my mind. Kind of maybe an off-road truck or piece of machinery, or maybe a bulldozer, but at the same time, it's not that aggressive. So it's an interesting point in this whole bass world characterization, where I'm not sure that I've yet come up with just the right way to summarize how this bass, which is so important to the music, what kind of character it's conveying. And of course, it's not just the bass. It's how everything works together. But it puts the focus on the bass. Okay, here's the guitar. Sort of chugging across the landscape. It's the repetition, it's the rhythm, it's the way the guitar and the drums and the bass are all setting up this feel, this dynamic. And it's also the way the voices are kind of riding above it all. And the harmonizations, the harmony happening in the voices, but that is kind of like, I'm going to use the image of an off-road truck with big tires kind of just driving slowly across a rugged landscape. It has a sort of ruggedness to it. And since that's the best image I can come up with, although I want to be clear, I'm not entirely satisfied with that. However, I'll stick with that because that's the best I can come up with. If the bass and the guitar and the drums are all this machine, then the voices are, it's an interesting thing. We're not looking at the people in the vehicle, but the people in the vehicle are looking out across this landscape, which is quite vast and expansive, and the voices represent to me, convey to me the sort of vastness, the expanse, what they are seeing. Although it's the experience of what they are seeing. It's their experience seeing it, not the landscape itself. It's an interesting sort of way of describing it, and it doesn't have to be that kind of scenario. But I'm trying to come up with a way to summarize what I'm hearing, and this idea that this band, as it said in the introduction, had some major influence on heavy metal. I can hear that. I kind of like the little bit more, I'm going to say, heavy feeling of this band. Sometimes metal is just a bunch of noise. No offense meant. But when we talk about heavy metal, sometimes it's so heavy and it's so there's so much of it that it gets to the point where we can't, or at least I can't, really process the power of it, the might of it. When you back away a little bit and hold a little bit in reserve, so that it's not as hard as it possibly could, it's not as heavy as it possibly could be. There is room around it for it to expand. Sometimes that is more compelling. Another example would be, you know how it is if you have something very, very important to say, and the most powerful way of saying it is not to shout it out at the top of your lungs, but to say it very precisely, very quietly. It seems to have more force. And that's what I'm talking about when I say noise with metal. I don't just mean that it's chaos. I mean that metal, heavy metal, is many times screaming at the top of your lungs. Whereas here, we're not saying it very quietly, but we're not quite at the top of our lungs yet. And so in a way, it has its own different kind of impact, which can, in some circumstances, in some contexts, be more effective. In this particular song, I think that if this were max volume, max heaviness, it wouldn't be as effective as it is right now. Because this musical dynamic and setup is such that it works best this way, and they're handling it beautifully. Having said that, I can hear a sort of, well, I can hear a lot of the elements that I hear in metal as well. I hear them here, and I can understand how, if this came before metal, then obviously there is a clear path of influence towards metal through something like this. I like that harpsichord coming in there. When that comes in first, it plays with me. It plays with my expectations. It plays with my familiarity with classical music. It teases me a little bit. It says something kind of like, I dare you to think of me as a classical prelude. I dare you to think of me as a sort of Baroque style piece of music, especially when when the harpsichord comes in. It's a simple little arpeggio pattern. But the focus is suddenly on just this, and it's as if we're taken out of the whole scenario, transported somewhere else, because everything else disappears, and it's just the guitar, and it's not any sort of a virtuosic display of skill where we're supposed to be awed. It's not anything that says, I want you to get all emotionally torn up by this. It's kind of like, let me go back to this scenario I've set up. An off-road vehicle filled with some passengers, having fun, enjoying the scenery, looking out, kind of carefree, la la la. And then something comes into view that, or they set their eyes on something that just takes their breath away, and suddenly their fun day disappears, their vehicle disappears, the whole experience they have been enjoying disappears for something that is just, oh wow. And it doesn't have to be anything very grand or impressive. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Let's see if we can figure out this. It's a minor chord with a major 7. And then here comes the harpsichord. Simple arpeggios, just simple chords here, but the way everything disappears around it, I like it. And it's kind of this moment of step out of the world you're in and just gaze at something and get lost in what it is. Okay, there's a little bit of percussion back there, but back into it. Here we go. There's something kind of Spanish about this. Spanish? Spanish? Or perhaps Arabic? Perhaps that southern Spain feeling. Which is sort of a mix. It's kind of a nice beat. It's funny, what he's doing on the guitar, every little thing that he does, wherever he has a little melodic moment, it catches my ear. Even this little bit here. Okay. What a listening experience. I started out really taken in by the bass and by the lower end of range musical activity. I was enjoying it. But as the piece progressed, somehow I was my attention, my interest, my ears, and it was kind of an imperceptible shift. It might have been due to the voices, which are kind of in the middle, and they might have kind of carried me somewhere else, because I ended up completely captivated by the guitar. And I'm just trying to process that whole journey and understand how it even happened. And what is it what is it about this guitar that has really caught my attention and drawn me in? Well, there was that moment where I said it's kind of classical, or that's really generic. It's playing around, it's teasing me, saying, I dare you to think of some Bach or Scarlatti, and I started to think more towards Scarlatti. And then it moved me towards Spanish music, and then even a little hint of Arabic influence. And I started thinking, okay, southern Spain, where there is a lot of Arabic influence historically, and you hear that in the music from that region. It didn't remain there. It moved beyond that. But I think that was a significant moment in how I related to the piece overall, and especially the guitar. But it didn't have to stay there in order to keep me interested. And as the playing progressed, I heard all kinds of musical influences. There was, of course, the blues, the rock, everything coming in. I think the thing that I loved about it, that really held my attention and made me enjoy it, was this sort of alchemy, the amalgamation of stylistic influences, but not for the stylistic influences' sake. And so I'm going to come back to southern Spain as an example. I love classical music from southern Spain because it has a sort of warmth and flexibility, and all those stylistic influences kind of come together and create something very special. But there is a warmth and vibrant spirit to it. Back to this piece, I think that's what caught me. And as it came to an end, I was thinking, this music sounds so incredibly joyful. So there is a sort of vibrancy, a joyfulness, a warmth to it. And I think that is what really captured my attention and made me enjoy it to the extent that I did. And a lot of it has to do with the guitar and how he's handling it, what he's doing with the melodies. There's some, pretty lively fingerwork going on. It's not for the sake of the fingerwork that I enjoy it. There's some fun syncopation. It's not for the sake of the syncopation. There's some beautiful melodic stuff happening. It's not for the sake of that. It's the way he is able to just let it flow and swirl and become a thing of its own with a life of its own. And that is what really caught me and held me all the way to the end. And I love that. I love the fact that here we have a piece that is a whole different style than my background, my tradition, we could say. And in it, there are elements that create the same sort of listening experience. And it's not rooted to a time or a place or a musical style. It has to do with the handling of it. And so, I'm just talking out loud as I'm thinking this all through. I guess if I were to sum it up, the thing that I love about this piece most, there's a lot to enjoy about it. The thing I love about it most is the way it feels like it's not limiting itself. It's not boxing itself into a certain style. It feels like it lives in a certain place, but it is so incredibly flexible and alive in that place. It is a living creature. And that's what I like about it. And so to go back to the image that I was playing around with at first, it becomes less and less satisfactory, although it still has some merit. And I still can't think of a better image for the first part of the piece. But the problem that I run into is that a truck is not a living creature. and I think that's probably why I'm not entirely satisfied with that description, with that picture. Having said that, there is something about this music which makes me think if someone could get the right imagery to convey, to expand on, the way this piece takes you from a sort of really rugged experience to more of an outward-looking, expansive taking in the view, to the vibrancy of the inner life, I feel like it could make a really great soundtrack to a little mini movie somehow. I think it could be done, but I am still stumped for what sort of imagery it should be. Now, all of that coming back to the lyrics, I followed the lyrics along the way, but for a good while, I didn't feel any connection between the lyrics and the music. That's the truth. But now, having worked through all of that and thought about all of that, coming back to the lyrics, of course, understanding that, okay, they played around with a lot of, what did it say? Occult, fantastical, and tongue-in-cheek lyrics. Okay. This is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, I think. But I feel like what it's expressing, with the help of the music, is this sort of joyful embracing of life together. And it's kind of a fantastical, humorous story told of these two people. I even think of it like maybe it's their friends talking afterwards, high school friends. And these two got together and they moved off and started their own life, and suddenly they're gone from the friends group, right? They don't live there anymore, and everyone's kind of mourning their absence. And so this feels like kind of a high schooler's dramatic, fantastical telling of what happened. Love of two is one here, but now they're gone. Came the last night of sadness. It was clear she couldn't go on. The door was... Yes, I understand. It's playing around with Romeo and Juliet. It's playing around with the idea of till death do us part, only we won't part afterwards either. Romeo and Juliet are together in eternity. 40,000 men and women every day redefine happiness. And all of this, I think that it is overall, and like the music, I have to take an overall view of it. I don't have to, but that's where I feel myself going. And that is that this is a quirky, humorous, artistic way of portraying the vibrancy, the happiness of being in love and choosing life together, and the fearlessness that comes with it. Come what may, we'll die together. We'll live our life together. We'll do it all together, and we're happy that way. And it's not a tragedy. There is this joyfulness about it, this embracing of the experience. And that's what I hear in the music too. So it took me a while to get through this and follow my way through it, but what a fun and interesting, even humorous piece of music, but a very enjoyable listening experience, especially for the first time. And I'm going to be curious how it strikes me the next times I listen to it. But this is my first time. And as always, thank you all for choosing this, for voting for this. And I'm looking forward to what you choose next time. I'll see you soon.